Hi everyone, welcome to my Will It Work kitchen. I like testing recipes. The reason why I do that is I want to make it either easier with less ingredients or an easier approach like using slow cooker or an instant pot or an air fryer. That's one way, is using a different methodology. The other reason is to convert an existing recipe into something healthier or something that is either free of something like those paleo recipes. You want it to be oil free, sugar free, or lower sugar, or gluten free, and so forth. In my case, since I am developing recipes for my friends who are vegan and I am vegan myself, I like to convert recipes that I find online into the vegan version. Now today it's a different story because the original recipe is of this of bourbon milk is, I would consider it already vegan if that's my purpose. If the bourbon I found out is vegan, it is not. It's still not, I would call the proper. Uh, we're not a religious kind of approach in here, but something more into the vegan one. And alcohol uh, is okay with vegan recipes. So, what then is my purpose? My purpose is really to make a milder version because when I follow Giada's recipe, and I'll show you what it is, it's very very simple, and you'll find out that it is a very very strong. However, I want to point out that this recipe is divided into 4 servings, and it has namely the following ingredients. It has half a cup of almond milk, uh, 2 ounces of bourbon, and an ounce is a tablespoon. So imagine she's using 2 tablespoons of bourbon, and then she also uses an 1 ounce of maple syrup. And again, an ounce is a tablespoon, so that's a lot of maple syrup. For for myself, I'm diabetic. That is a lot. And then she uses half a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract and a pinch of salt. So when I tested this, I actually have a video wherein I was testing this with you guys. I found out that I can do 2 approaches towards making this less boozy because that's really my purpose. One is to use rum extract instead of a bourbon itself, this bourbon, or use a lesser amount of bourbon. And my conclusion at the end of the video of my testing this, surprisingly, is the fact that using rum extract was better than using the real McCoy. So, so in this particular video, I'm showing you the final result that made me happy. Not that giddy happy, but taste happy. So let's get back to this. So for this recipe is very easy. You again use, I use for non-dairy milk, I use oat milk because it's just a preference. I use half a cup. I'm making 1 serving. I'm not dividing it into 4 like Giada did because I'm using less booze. But I just want to have milk that I can drink straight without having to divide it, but still have the boozy taste of the bourbon milk. Because when I tried it with her recipe, it knocked me out. And even after the test that I did, wherein I resorted to adding and adding bourbon, I I I I almost canceled. Um, I almost canceled my trip to the grocery store that I was intending to do and switch back to delivery because it took me time to get over the the booziness from the spirit from the bourbon. So that's one more advantage of using rum extract. But anyway, going back to this, you take only you take half of cup of your milk. It could be almond, soy, or oat. Oat is my preference. And then what you do then is I found when I was developing the recipe that half a teaspoon of maple syrup is sufficient. You don't need any more than that. And that's what I'm going to use, and I'll stick to that. Giada's recipe uses for 1 whole tablespoon of simple syrup. Simple syrup is sugar dissolved in water. However, it was found by most vegan enthusiasts that using maple syrup is more advantageous. You can also use date syrup, and they still give you the sugar content, but they're more have they have more value to it in terms of nutrients, not just the so-called sucrose in it that is found in table sugar. And it's not as highly processed as the table sugar. So they highly recommend maple syrup or date syrup. I buy this. I buy this in the grocery store already prepared. Now, date syrup, you can also buy, you can prepare that, and I will put the reference to Gerudi family's uh, uh, recipe for preparing date syrup. So let's just put the amount of syrup, as I mentioned. The syrup, the amount of syrup is just half a syrup, half a teaspoon of syrup. And that will be sufficient, I found out when I was testing the recipe with you. And that's 1/4 the amount of what Giada put in her in her recipe. The next thing I will be putting in is half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I found out that I had to use exactly the amount that Giada used, no alteration. And there is another ingredient in there which I'm skipping, and that is a pinch of salt. You can, but again, I'm catering to uh, my friends who are SOS free enthusiasts who or adhere to that type of uh, approach to eating. So here comes the magic ingredient to approximate the bourbon. So you don't need this bourbon. Hello, goodbye. And you just use this rum extract. And I found out when I was testing this that it tastes even better than this bourbon. I was surprised. It doesn't have the bitterness, but it has that alcoholic taste without having the alcohol in it, and the rum taste that is probably is my favorite. So I found out that in order to make me happy, I need a half teaspoon. Now let's be fair to Giada's recipe. That half cup of the half cup that she prepares, she divides it into four. servings. So in the last analysis, if you do the arithmetic, she's using, let me see in here, uh, 2 tablespoons, which is 4 teaspoons, 8 teaspoons of bourbon. And in here, and if you divide 8 by 4, because it's 4 servings, that will be 2 teaspoons of bourbon each serving. Now, what I'm preparing is this half cup will be a full serving for me. And that's because I love having this with my milk and so forth. Remember, Giada was using it as an after dessert, after meal dessert, a heavy meal dessert. And she serves it with a delectable cookie. In my case, this is it. But I can always have a ginger snap cookie and so forth. So let's compare. So she was using in each serving 2 teaspoons of bourbon. What I found out is um, this half a cup. Remember, I'm using half a cup, not her 1/8 cup uh, for my afternoon delight or morning delight. I am using half a teaspoon of rum extract. So that's still a very much smaller amount than the 2 teaspoons that she has for each serving in her recipe. So before I, after I just want to clarify that because because it's misleading to think, you know. So doing it per serving, let me see if it's still good as when I tested it. Yes, it's awesome. And you'll be happy with this. And the good news is your children, you can, it's like a Shirley Temple type of bourbon milk will be happy with this too. But we have to rename it rum milk now because of the extract that I use. Cheers.